Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Great and Powerful Zilla, and today we're in World of Tanks again, and I'm going to talk about this vehicle right here. This is the German Tier 9 heavy tank, the VK 4502B. This was an experimental tank. The VK stands for Volketten, all right, and it was developed by Ferdinand Porsche. In 1942, Ferdinand Porsche proposed the Tiger, his version of it, which had hydraulic transmission. It was an abysmal failure. It wouldn't even run in front of Hitler when it was being reviewed. So in April of 1942, after the 4501 absolutely failed, the turrets that were created for that one were sent to, I think it was Rheinmetall, might have been Auscott, and they were developed into the Tiger II and incorporated in that. However, development continued, even though at this point of the war things weren't looking real good for Germany. Uh, Manufacturers didn't sneeze at the idea of making some money and these wasteful products, even though most of them were pretty convinced that this was a lost cause. They wouldn't say so out loud, at least. And Ferdinand Porsche was a kind of a quirky guy, and he insisted on pushing forward this idea of an electro hydraulic transmission. So he developed 5 different vehicles of this type. There were 2 different hull configurations. The Hinton, which you see here, had the turret at the rear, and the Vorn had the turret way up front. Okay, and on paper, and that's all these things came to be. As far as I know, no prototypes were built. Um, yeah, I looked for pictures of them. I couldn't find them. This thing was supposed to weigh 57 tons. It was supposed to have 120 millimeter armor and have an 8.8 centimeter pack or L71 gun, the same gun that would be on the Tiger II. And it was theoretically able to do 24 miles per hour. However, with the technology of the time, it probably could do that going downhill on a paved road. But outside of that, I don't see it. It's just too heavy. Um, in the game, they changed it a little bit. Um, Now, what are the advantages of having the turret at the rear? Well, for one thing, it puts all the transmission and engine up front. So you've got all that space between here and your crew, which are back here. All right. The driver of this vehicle sat up front here, and the hull gunner sat here. So they were separated from the turret crew, the 3 men in the turret, by the engine and the transmission here. Okay. So that's one downside, but it meant that this vehicle could pull into a hull down position and technically be extremely difficult to take out from the front. All right. In the game, they've switched and they gave it a 128 millimeter gun, L55. Um, okay, some creative license. I imagine it could have fitted this gun. If it did, it would have been 12.8 centimeter Pack 44, which developed in 1943. Okay, but this is a very tough tank in the game. Up front, well, armor wise, let's see, you've got 200 millimeters up front, 120 on the side, 100 on the back. All right, 265 on the turret front, 160 on the side and the rear. Okay. So they've changed quite a bit on this tank in the game. In reality, it probably wouldn't move very well. This is one of those super tanks. For whatever reason, Hitler was enamored by bigger. Bigger is better, and at this point, Germany was churning out not a lot, but some really big vehicles that were heavily armored. And as the Soviets and the Americans too understood, quantity has a quality all of its own, and it doesn't matter how good your tank is. If you're facing off against 800 charging T-34-85s, you're just going to get overwhelmed. So, at this point of the war, seriously, anybody to talk to will tell you that Germany really had no business doing this experimental crap with these tanks, but they did. So we're left with these theoretical prototypes. I don't know that this vehicle's was ever built. I've seen some hull configurations online, but I have not seen this actual vehicle pictured anywhere. So it may never have been built. Parts of it may have been, but the whole vehicle, I don't think it was ever actually built. So we're going to take it into a match, and we're going to see what we can do with it. It is a very, very good heavy tank in the game. Not the swiftest horse in the barn, but it is very good, and we'll see what happens. Okay, we get into battle on El Haluf, and I'm going to take a look around here and see what we got. And, you know, it's parked right next to an artillery piece. Everybody's going to deploy here, different areas. And where I'm going to go is up toward the top corner of the map. You see the arrow here. So that's where I'm going to go. And the idea is to get where I can side scrape, because this tank is very good at side scraping, and see if I can do some damage up there and, you know, hopefully win the battle. So,
move out.
Cruise on along here on El Wolf. This is an older map. I'm very familiar with it. Heavy tanks generally go to that corner. Tank destroyers and whatnot tend to line up along the ridge line here and take pot shots at each other. Light tanks like to scooch down into the valley there and scout around that way. I'm surprised not a lot of guys are banging into each other. Normally at this time we get a big traffic jam, everybody jamming into each other. But like I said, everybody seems to be faster than this tank. It's not the swiftest horse in the barn, as I said before. It's not exactly slow either. It's pretty much bog standard average, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But going toward where we're going to make contact with the enemy. And you see off to the left here, that tank with 2 barrels never existed. If it could have, it didn't. That's a make-believe tank that the Russians put in there. It's got 2-barreled 122 millimeter guns. It never would have worked, ever. Just the stresses and physics just work against it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here on this corner and see if I can't contribute to our efforts here. Pull around to the right of this Carnarvon. I believe that's Carnarvon. It might not be. It might be something else. I'm not sure. And one thing that this tank is very, very accurate. So we take a shot, I get a hit, and back off a little bit, and boing, they start bouncing off my hull. And I'm going to take another shot.
We didn't penetrate their armor.
Nope, I tracked him so that our team can take him out. So they take him out, and I back up. Now one thing I do know is I am vulnerable to artillery in this position. But so far, the artillery has ignored me until now when they hit me. And they made my loader,
The radio man is bleeding.
radio guy, they hurt him.
We fixed the track. Get going.
One of the crew skills I take first in any tank is repair. I'm going to continue to try. See that guy's side scraping. So I'm going to continue to try and take shots at him, but I can't seem to get through his armor, and I'm just not going to press the 2 key. I'm not going to. I don't even load gold ammunition in this tank. And any of my tanks, really, except for a few that absolutely have to have it. Not because it's a bad thing, it's because I have a general principle.
We've lost the track.
I take a hit there. Can't get through that turret.
Their armor.
Back it up. I'm trying not to sit still. If I sit still, artillery's going to just have a field day with me. Come out again. Don't want to block my teammates. I'm going to allow them to back up. Those 2 guys over there, they're going to push that corner, and they're going to get kind of tore up, but they do press the corner and they do turn that corner. So that's a good thing. And they're fighting over there. If I poke out of here, I'm going to get smushed. At this time. So if you look off to my left, you see all those tanks over there? They're all pointing this way. So the the E100 Yagaru, he gets up there and he takes a shot, and those guys back off. And when they back off, that gives me an opportunity to cross this gap. I got no shots. One thing you don't want to do in this game is block somebody from backing up, if you can at all avoid it. So I'm going to rush across this gap, if rush can be used. I'm going to come take this corner, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go a little bit wide. I'm going to come in. I'm going to try and use the hulls of these tanks to protect my hull. Unfortunately, they have one of those two-gunned vehicles there, and they're firing gold ammunition.
We didn't even scratch them.
So I can't penetrate that turret, and I don't have any gold ammunition, and they do. And they've got the twin-gun configuration on that thing, so
The turret
there
ring
we
is
go.
damaged.
Boom, boom.
We could barely turn it. Bail out. This vehicle
And
is
that's it
hacked.
for me in this battle. However, we did end up winning, so that's a good thing. But that's the VK4502B. Until next time, you guys be good to each other and have a great, great day.